Start screen sharing. Okay. Okay. Whoever's recording, can you start now? All right. So, like I said, my name is Morgan. My theme was structured learning environments. I am currently in Houston, Texas, student teaching at UM's Elementary School in a kindergarten classroom. And my kindergarten classroom is kind of special because we are dual language. So I get to see, that setup of a classroom. So that's been really cool. So kind of in a big overview, I will share my competency statement, then my guiding questions. I will do an overview of my artifacts, and then I will present to you my artifacts. I will give a conclusion and show my professional growth. So my competency statement is I am competent at providing step-by-step instructions to increase my student success. My guiding questions that kind of guided me through this presentation are: what is the relationship between classroom structures and student learning, and how does following instructions correctly help students achieve? So an overview of my 3 artifacts. So I kind of broke it up where I was learning, and I pulled from a journal entry, and then my emerging, where the light bulb finally clicked, was during a conversation I had with my cooperating teacher. And then when I was competent was this semester during my student teaching during a writing lesson. So my first artifact, like I said, was a journal entry from my first practicum. So I'll just read to you what I typed in my journal entry. After teaching that lesson and leaving school that day, I felt defeated. I had released the kids to go to their desks to start working, and it seemed that they had not comprehended any of the things that I had instructed them to do. In that moment, I was so confused because I felt like I had given them clear expectations on exactly what they should be doing, but instead it was chaotic. So what I felt like during that first practicum of mine, that I had given them clear expectations, was like, it was awful. I remember I gave them this huge laundry list of things to do, and expected these. I was in a 3rd grade classroom, so I expected these 8, 9-year-olds to, do 5 steps and finish and do it quietly. And yeah, boy, was I proved wrong. So then going on to my next artifact, it was from a conversation I had with my cooperating teacher in my literature block. So I had just got done teaching a lesson, and once again, it was kind of like my previous experience in my first practicum. I told her, I was like, I just figured that they would know how to do this. It really surprised me that these kids were so confused. I thought that I was clear, which, you can be clear, but for them to understand it might be a different story. And my cooperating teacher told me, you can't expect them to remember a huge list of things that you give them. Remember, they need step-by-step instructions because it's so hard for them to remember multi-step instructions. It may seem silly and time-consuming explaining things so in depth, but trust me, it will help in the long run. It also helps if you have 1 or 2 students repeat back the instructions to you to clarify they know what they're doing. So after this conversation, the next day I went back, and so I tried what she suggested, and there's just this light bulb moment in my teaching career. So we were doing sight words. This is in kindergarten, and we were having them go back to their desks. And so I instructed the kids to stand up, and as soon as they were all standing up, I said, okay, go back to your desk, and just giving them those clear, simple step-by-step instructions. They were just able to do things or succeed not only in their schoolwork, but in the instructions that were given. And they were able to do the sight word thing that we were doing. So that was kind of my light bulb transformation moment. So then my artifact 3, I put what I'd been learning through my time as a student into practice. This was in my student teaching practicum, like I said earlier, or my student teaching experience. We were doing in kindergarten, the first few weeks that I was observing, my cooperating teacher didn't really use step-by-step instructions. So I saw a lot of these kids not succeeding in their schoolwork because she was just giving them like multiple instructions, and like these kids were kind of all over the place. And the student who I have his paper here, he would like maybe do half of his assignments, like not really ever finishing them. He was really down on himself. And so when I'd be teaching, the kids were doing procedures. And so this example, specific example, is how to build a snowman. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. I get to put to practice what I've been learning. And so I said, okay, so everyone stand up. Let's go back to our desks. As soon as they were back to their desks, I said, okay, write number 1 on your paper. And we just went through and we did this whole assignment with their help. And he was able to complete it. And just like seeing that he needs those more in-depth instructions to succeed was like really, really awesome to see. And that also built his confidence as a student. And I love to see that. And also this kind of made me realize that as a teacher or, you know, as an adult, if I'm giving clear expectations of exactly what is needed of me, it's so much easier to succeed and to do well. So kind of relaying that onto my students, is the same thing. So in conclusion, I started not knowing how to manage the children and have ended with knowing exactly what students need to help them succeed using step-by-step instructions. At the beginning of my time as a student, I would leave my practicum site feeling defeated because my students were not following any sort of direction, and throughout my time as a student in the education department, I have been given tools and tips to help me successfully give my students the steps and instructions they need to be successful in the classroom. So then I want to talk about my professional growth from where I started, where I am currently, and where I'm going in the future. So in the past, during my first practicum experience, I lacked structure, I lacked expectations, I lacked classroom management. I didn't know how to really manage a class at all. And I didn't understand the importance of explicit instructions. So now I do understand the importance of step-by-step instruction in helping my students succeed, and I'm able to provide that to them. So now, for my future professional growth, I want to continue to grow in classroom management consistently. I know how to do it, but there are times where I realize that I'm not giving them clear explicit instructions. So I just want to work on my consistency. I want to develop a classroom where students know what is expected all day long, and also the use of visuals to help them succeed, because I know that really helps when they can see what I'm talking about and kind of match it up to know what's expected. So that is all I have. I will open up to any questions for anybody. Thank you.
Don't have anything, Morgan. Hi, Morgan. Okay, so I have a question. So I have on your second bullet, develop a classroom where students know what is expected. What are some ways that you can do that? On your slide you just had talked about, what are some ways that you can make them know what's expected all day? Besides that average, just that agenda on the board, is there anything else that you can do? Okay, so during the day, you said just something that they know what is expected of them. Well, I was looking at your future, your second point you had written that you wanted to zoom past there. One more. Okay. Develop a classroom where students know expected all day long, because most students, they have an agenda. Is there anything else that you would do beyond the agenda to have them know what's happening?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, like definitely having like a visual up on the board, but then like within that, just like being consistent in my day-to-day teaching, so they know like, okay, after we get done with writing, because I've seen a lot of teachers like um, they're not consistent with like what they teach or when they teach. So I think just like making sure I'm consistent every day, so then the students know like, oh, we have writing after this, or then we go to PE or whatever. So I think consistency for me would help them know what's expected.
That's okay. Morgan, they're finished. They don't have any more questions for you. Steph was like, I did it wrong. She wrote on the wrong paper. She's fine.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so next is who? I keep moving my screen around and I keep losing the agenda. Okay, so Ashlyn, you'll be next.
Yes.
You can go ahead. Morgan, if you stop sharing your screen. Okay, why is it doing that? Yeah, if Morgan, if you stopped, you did, never mind. Then Ashlyn, you can get yours all right. See if that'll work. Okay, the screen share, and you got it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to talk because I'm echoing over there, so I'm like, Okay, I'm gonna mute so they can finish talking, and then I think Ruth is gonna have to leave, so we'll see.